Now when it was the 6th night, her sister, Dunuzad, said to her, "Pray finish for us thy story," and she answered, "I will if the king give me leave." "Say on," quoth the king. And she continued, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the fisherman said to the Ifrit, 'If thou hadst spared me I would have spared thee, but nothing would satisfy thee save my death, so now I will do thee die by jailing thee in this jar, and I will hurl thee into the sea.' Then the Marid roared aloud and cried, 'Allah upon thee, O fisherman, don't spare me, and pardon my past doings, and, as I have been tyrannous, so be thou generous, for it is said among sayings that go current, O thou who doest good to him who hath done thee evil, suffice for the ill-doer his ill deeds, and do not deal with me as did Imama to Attica.'" Asked the fisherman, "And what was their case?" And the Ifrit answered, "This is not the time for storytelling and I in this prison, but set me free and I will tell thee the tale." Quoth the fisherman, "Leave this language, there is no help but that thou be thrown back into the sea, nor is there any way for thy getting out of it for ever and ever. Vainly I placed myself under thy protection, and I humbled myself to thee with weeping, while thou soughtest only to slay me, who had done thee no injury deserving this at thy hands, nay, so far from injuring thee by any evil act, I worked thee not but weal in releasing thee from that jail of thine. Now I knew thee to be an evildoer when thou didst to me what thou didst, and know, that when I have cast thee back into this sea, I will warn whomsoever may fish thee up of what hath befallen me with thee, and I will advise him to toss thee back again, so shalt thou abide here under these waters till the end of time shall make an end of thee." But the Ifrit cried aloud, "Set me free, this is a noble occasion for generosity, and I make covenant with thee and vow never to do thee hurt and harm, nay, I will help thee to what shall put thee out of want." The fisherman accepted his promises on both conditions, not to trouble him as before, but on the contrary to do him service, and, after making firm the plight and swearing him a solemn oath by Allah Most Highest, he opened the cucurbit. Thereupon the pillar of smoke rose up till all of it was fully out, then it thickened and once more became an Ifrit of hideous presence, who forthright administered a kick to the bottle and sent it flying into the sea. The fisherman, seeing how the cucurbit was treated and making sure of his own death, piddled in his clothes and said to himself, "This promiseth badly," but he fortified his heart, and cried, "O Ifrit, Allah hath said, perform your covenant, for the performance of your covenant shall be inquired into hereafter. Thou hast made a vow to me and hast sworn an oath not to play me false lest Allah play thee false, for verily He is a jealous God who respiteth the sinner, but letteth him not escape. I say to thee as said the sage Duban to King Yunan, spare me so Allah may spare thee." The Ifrit burst into laughter and stalked away, saying to the fisherman, "Follow me," and the man paced after him at a safe distance, for he was not assured of escape, till they had passed round the suburbs of the city. Thence they struck into the uncultivated grounds, and crossing them descended into a broad wilderness, and lo! in the midst of it stood a mountain tarn. The Ifrit waded into the middle and again cried, "Follow me," and when this was done he took his stand in the center and bade the man cast his net and catch his fish. The fisherman looked into the water and was much astonished to see therein vari-colored fishes, white and red, blue and yellow. However he cast his net and, hauling it in, saw that he had netted 4 fishes, one of each color. Thereat he rejoiced greatly and more when the Ifrit said to him, "Carry these to the Sultan and set them in his presence, then he will give thee what shall make thee a wealthy man, and now accept my excuse, for by Allah at this time I wot none other way of benefiting thee, inasmuch I have lain in this sea 1800 years and have not seen the face of the world save within this hour. But I would not have thee fish here save once a day." The Ifrit then gave him Godspeed, saying, "Allah grant we meet again," and struck the earth with one foot, whereupon the ground clove asunder and swallowed him up. The fisherman, much marveling at what had happened to him with the Ifrit, took the fish and made for the city, and as soon as he reached home he filled an earthen bowl with water and therein threw the fish, which began to struggle and wriggle about. Then he bore off the bowl upon his head and, repairing to the king's palace, even as the Ifrit had bidden him, laid the fish before the presence, and the king wondered with exceeding wonder at the sight, for never in his lifetime had he seen fishes like these in quality or in conformation. So he said, Give those fish to the stranger slave girl who now cooketh for us," meaning the bond maiden whom the king of Roum had sent to him only 3 days before, so that he had not yet made trial of her talents in the dressing of meat. Thereupon the wazir carried the fish to the cook and bade her fry them, saying, "O damsel, the king sendeth this say to thee, I have not treasured thee, O tira me. Save for stress time of me, approve, then, to us this day thy delicate handiwork and thy savory cooking, for this dish of fish is a present sent to the sultan and evidently a rarity." The wazir, after he had carefully charged her, returned to the king, who commanded him to give the fisherman 400 dinars, he gave them accordingly, and the man took them to his bosom and ran off home stumbling and falling and rising again and deeming the whole thing to be a dream. However, he bought for his family all they wanted and lastly he went to his wife in huge joy and gladness. So far concerning him, but as regards the cookmaid, she took the fish and cleansed them and set them in the frying pan, basting them with oil till one side was dressed. Then she turned them over and, behold, the kitchen wall clave asunder, and therefrom came a young lady, fair of form, oval of face, perfect in grace, with eyelids which kohl lines enchase. Her dress was a silken head kerchief fringed and tasseled with blue, a large ring hung from either ear, a pair of bracelets adorned her wrists, rings with bezels of priceless gems were on her fingers, and she had in hand a long rod of rattan cane which she thrust into the frying pan, saying, "O fish! O fish! Be ye constant to your covenant?" When the cook maiden saw this apparition she swooned away. The young lady repeated her words a second time and a third time, and at last the fishes raised their heads from the pan, and saying in articulate speech "Yes! Yes!" began with one voice to recite. "Come back and so will I. Keep faith and so will I. And if ye fain forsake, I'll requite till quits we cry." After this the young lady upset the frying pan and went forth by the way she came in and the kitchen wall closed upon her. When the cook maiden recovered from her fainting fit, she saw the 4 fishes charred black as charcoal, and crying out, "His staff brake in his first bout," she again fell swooning to the ground. Whilst she was in this case the wazir came for the fish, and looking upon her as insensible she lay, not knowing Sunday from Thursday, shoved her with his foot and said, "Bring the fish for the sultan." Thereupon recovering from her fainting fit she wept and informed him of her case and all that had befallen her. The wazir marveled greatly and exclaiming, "This is none other than a right strange matter," he sent after the fisherman and said to him, "Thou, O fisherman, must needs fetch us 4 fishes like those thou broughtest before." Thereupon the man repaired to the tarn and cast his net, and when he landed it, lo! 4 fishes were therein exactly like the first. These he at once carried to the wazir, who went in with them to the cook maiden and said, "Up with thee and fry these in my presence, that I may see this business." The damsel arose and cleansed the fish, and set them in the frying pan over the fire, however they remained there but a little while ere the wall clave asunder and the young lady appeared, clad as before and holding in hand the wand which she again thrust into the frying pan, saying, "O fish! O fish! Be ye constant to your olden covenant." And behold, the fish lifted their heads, and repeated "Yes! Yes!" and recited this couplet: "Come back and so will I. Keep faith and so will I. But if ye fain forsake, I'll requite till quits we cry." And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. Now when it was the 7th night, she continued, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the fishes spoke, and the young lady upset the frying pan with her rod, and went forth by the way she came and the wall closed up, the wazir cried out, 'This is a thing not to be hidden from the king,' so he went and told him what had happened, whereupon quoth the king, 'There is no help for it but that I see this with mine own eyes.' Then he sent for the fisherman and commanded him to bring 4 other fish like the first and to take with him 3 men as witnesses. The fisherman at once brought the fish, and the king, after ordering them to give him 400 gold pieces, turned to the wazir and said, 'Up and fry me the fishes here before me.' The minister, replying to hear is to obey, bade bring the frying pan, threw therein the cleansed fish and set it over the fire, when lo! The wall clave asunder, and out burst a black slave like a huge rock or a remnant of the tribe bearing in hand a branch of a green tree, and he cried in loud and terrible tones, O fish! O fish! Be ye all constant to your antique covenant. Whereupon the fishes lifted their heads from the frying pan and said, Yes! Yes! We be true to our vow, and they again recited the couplet. Come back and so will I. Keep faith and so will I. But if ye fain forsake, I'll requite till quits we cry. Then the huge blackamoor approached the frying pan and upset it with a branch and went forth by the way he came in. When he vanished from their sight the king inspected the fish, and, finding them all charred black as charcoal, was utterly bewildered and said to the wazir, Verily this is a matter wherein silence cannot be kept, and as for the fishes, assuredly some marvelous adventure connects with them. So he bade bring the fisherman and asked him, saying, Fie on thee, fellow! Whence come these fishes? And he answered, From a tarn between 4 heights lying behind this mountain which is inside of thy city. Quoth the king, How many days' march? Quoth he, O our lord the Sultan, a walk of half hour. The king wondered and, straightway ordering his men to march and horsemen to mount, led off the fisherman who went before as guide, privily damning the Ifrit. They fared on till they had climbed the mountain and ascended unto a great desert which they had never seen during all their lives, and the Sultan and his merry men marveled much at the wold set in the midst of 4 mountains, and the tarn and its fishes of 4 colors, red and white, yellow and blue. The king stood fixed to the spot in wonderment and asked his troops and all present, Hath any one among you ever seen this piece of water before now? And all made answer, O king of the age, never did we set eyes upon it during all our days. They also questioned the oldest inhabitants they met, men well stricken in years, but they replied, Each and every, a lakelet like this we never saw in this place. Thereupon quoth the king, By Allah I will neither return to my capital nor sit upon the throne of my forebears till I learn the truth about this tarn and the fish therein. He then ordered his men to dismount and bivouac all around the mountain, which they did, and summoning his wazir, a minister of much experience, sagacious, of penetrating wit and well versed in affairs, said to him, 'Tis in my mind to do a certain thing, whereof I will inform thee. My heart telleth me to fare forth alone this night and root out the mystery of this tarn and its fishes. Do thou take thy seat at my tent door, and say to the emirs and wazirs, the nabobs and the chamberlains, in fine to all who ask thee, the Sultan is ill at ease, and he hath ordered me to refuse all admittance, and be careful thou let none know my design. And the wazir could not oppose him. Then the king changed his dress and ornaments and, slinging his sword over his shoulder, took a path which led up one of the mountains and marched for the rest of the night till morning dawned, nor did he cease wayfaring till the heat was too much for him. After his long walk he rested for a while, and then resumed his march and fared on through the second night till dawn, when suddenly there appeared a black point in the far distance. Hereat he rejoiced and said to himself, Haply someone here shall acquaint me with the mystery of the tarn and its fishes. Presently, drawing near the dark object he found it a palace built of swart stone plated with iron, and, while one leaf of the gate stood wide open, the other was shut. The king's spirits rose high as he stood before the gate and rapped a light rap, but hearing no answer he knocked a second knock and a third, yet there came no sign. Then he knocked his loudest but still no answer, so he said, Doubtless 'tis empty. Thereupon he mustered up resolution, and boldly walked through the main gate into the great hall and there cried out aloud, Holla, ye people of the palace! I am a stranger and a wayfarer, have you aught here of victual? He repeated his cry a second time and a third but still there came no reply, so strengthening his heart and making up his mind he stalked through the vestibule into the very middle of the palace and found no man in it. Yet it was furnished with silken stuffs gold starred, and the hangings were let down over the doorways. In the midst was a spacious court off which set 4 open saloons each with its raised dais, saloon, facing saloon, a canopy shaded the court and in the center was a jetting fount with 4 figures of lions made of red gold, spouting from their mouths water clear as pearls and diaphanous gems. Round about the palace birds were let loose and over it stretched a net of golden wire, hindering them from flying off. In brief there was everything but human beings. The king marveled mightily thereat, yet felt he sad at heart for that he saw no one to give him an account of the waste and its tarn, the fishes, the mountains and the palace itself. Presently as he sat between the doors in deep thought, behold, there came a voice of lament, as from a heart grief spent, and he heard the voice chanting these verses. I hid what I endured of him, and yet it came to light, and nightly sleep mine eyelids fled and changed to sleepless night. O world! O fate! Withhold thy hand and cease thy hurt and harm, look and behold my hapless sprite in dolour and affright. Wilt ne'er show ruth to high-born youth who lost him on the way of love, and fell from wealth and fame to lowest basest wight? Jealous of Zephyr's breath was I as on your form he breathed, but when his destiny descends she blindeth human sight. What shall the hapless archer do who when he fronts his foe and bends his bow to shoot the shaft shall find his string undight? When cark and care so heavy bear on youth of generous soul, how shall he scape his lot and wear from fate his place of flight? Now when the Sultan heard the mournful voice he sprang to his feet, and, following the sound, found a curtain let down over a chamber door. He raised it and saw behind it a young man sitting upon a couch about a cubit above the ground, and he fair to the sight, a well-shaped wight, with eloquence dight, his forehead was flower white, his cheek rosy bright, and a mole on his cheek breadth like an ambergris might, even as the poet doth indite. A youth slim-waisted, from whose locks and brow the world in blackness and in light is set. Throughout creation's round no fairer show, no rarer sight thine eye hath ever met. A nut-brown mole sits throned upon a cheek of rosiest red beneath an eye of jet. The king rejoiced and saluted him, but he remained sitting in his caftan of silken stuff purfled with Egyptian gold and his crown studded with gems of sorts, but his face was sad with the traces of sorrow. He returned the royal salute in most courteous wise, adding, O my lord, thy dignity demandeth my rising to thee, and my sole excuse is to crave thy pardon. Quoth the king, Thou art excused, O youth, so look upon me as thy guest come hither on an especial object. I would thou acquaint me with the secrets of this tarn and its fishes, and of this palace and thy loneliness therein, and the cause of thy groaning and wailing. When the young man heard these words he wept with sore weeping, till his bosom was drenched with tears, and began reciting. Say him who careless sleeps what while the shaft of fortune flies, how many doth this shifting world lay low and raise to rise? Although thine eye be sealed in sleep, sleep not, th Almighty's eyes, and who hath found time ever fair, or fate in constant guise. Then he sighed a long-fetched sigh and recited. Confide thy case to him, the Lord who made mankind, quit cark and care and cultivate content of mind. Ask not the past or how or why it came to pass, all human things by fate and destiny were designed. The king marveled and asked him, What maketh thee weep, O young man? And he answered, How should I not weep, when this is my case? Thereupon he put out his hand and raised the skirt of his garment, when lo! The lower half of him appeared stone down to his feet, while from his navel to the hair of his head he was man. The king, seeing this his plight, grieved with sore grief, and of his compassion cried, Alack and well away! In very sooth, O youth, thou heapest sorrow upon my sorrow. I was minded to ask thee the mystery of the fishes only, whereas now I am concerned to learn thy story as well as theirs. But there is no majesty and there is no might save in Allah, the glorious, the great. Lose no time, O youth, but tell me forthright thy whole tale. Quoth he, Lend me thine ears, thy sight and thine insight, and quoth the king, All are at thy service. Thereupon the youth began, Right wondrous and marvellous is my case and that of these fishes, and were it graven with gravers upon the eye corners it were a warner to whoso would be warned. How is that? Asked the king, and the young man began to tell the tale of the ensorcelled prince,